Putin and Xi called for halt to NATO expansion, Kremlin says, a show of unity at Beijing Olympics. Russia's President Vladimir Putin fought the left and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping fought the right, hold bilateral talks at the Daiyutai State Guesthouse in Beijing on Friday. Beijing CNN, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping issued a call for NATO to halt further expansion during a meeting on the sidelines of the Beijing Olympics on Friday, according to a joint statement released by the Kremlin. The two leaders' summit, held on the day of the opening ceremony for the Winter Olympics in China's capital, marked the further step in what has become an increasingly close partnership between Beijing and Moscow as relations with the West deteriorate for both. According to an English language version of the joint statement released by the Kremlin, the two countries believe that certain state, military and political alliances and coalitions seek to obtain directly or indirectly on unilateral military advantages to the detriment of the security of others. Russia and China also oppose further enlargement of NATO and call on North Atlantic Alliance to abandon its ideologized Cold War approaches to respect the sovereignty, security, and interests of other countries, the diversity of their civilizational, cultural, and historical backgrounds, and to exercise a fair and objective attitude towards the peaceful development of the other states, the Kremlin statement said. A readout from the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the two leaders had an in-depth and thorough exchange of views on China-Russia relations and a series of major issues concerning international strategic security and stability, but made no direct mention of NATO. Mofa described the meeting as taking place in the warm and friendly atmosphere and said she was ready to work with Putin to transform the high-level mutual trust between the two countries into outcomes of cooperation across the board. She stressed that in the face of profound and complex changes in the international situation, China and Russia are committed to deepening back-to-back strategic coordination and upholding international fairness and justice side by side, the MOFA readout said. This is a strategic choice that will have a far-reaching impact on both China and Russia and the world at large. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov similarly described the summit as a warm and constructive meeting of partners and allies. In a conference call with reporters, at the same time, it was very substantive, he said. According to Peskov, Putin and Xi mainly discussed the bilateral relations and the trade partnership, but topics on the international agenda were also raised. Following the expanded talks, the two leaders headed to the working on one-on-one lunch to dwell in detail on international issues, security guarantees, regional problems. Peskov added. Putin is among a small group of world leaders to attend the Games, with the Western government, including the United States, Britain, and Australia, having declared a diplomatic boycott over China's human rights record. Other leaders have turned down invitations, citing Beijing's stringent COVID-19 controls. His summit with Xi comes as the massing of Russian troops near the border with Ukraine, fuel fears of the imminent invasion and amid warnings from the West that any Russian aggression would prompt serious consequences. CNN's Anna Chernova reported from Moscow. CNN's Nathan Hodge and Simone McCarthy contributed to this report.